leading up to the coffee shop, it was part of that, my wife and I just figuring out or talking and dreaming about the future and praying through what do we see ourselves doing.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing, I don't remember like a big aha moment of like, I want to open a coffee shop necessarily, but one thing for us is with the video stuff, we got to travel a bunch, which was awesome. And with that, like, and we got to travel together. Sometimes I'd do gigs and I'd bring her with me and stuff. And like pre-kids, you can just kind of leave and it's pretty simple. But the first thing we would do when you get to a new town is go to a coffee shop. That's the first stop of the travel day. You know, once you get in it, if you get in at night, then it's like, all right, tomorrow we're going to get breakfast at a coffee spot. Yeah. Hopefully. Or at least go get good coffee, then go get food. You know, we got we'll vibe it out, see what's going on. But that was always really fun to us and it makes a big impact on the city. And I think it was more so like my wife thinking it would be really cool to be able to have one of these and be a spot for our city that people can have a first impression of. Yeah. You know, in our town. And that happens all the time. People come in and they just got in the night before and they're like, this is our first stop. Where do you recommend we go from here? Yeah. And that's pretty cool.
So instead of like a tourist like kiosk or whatever, the welcome center, y'all are kind of the welcome center.
We are the welcome. We should let the city know that.
Yeah. It's like Makers is the new welcome center.
Yeah. Yeah. We're trying. I mean, it's cool because we've been able to leverage the social media, which we have the photo and video background to be able to be kind of smart, at least how it looks. And then going back to your connection question, one cool thing about doing all these video projects is we've gotten to work with so many other businesses and see what they do really well and what they don't do really well, and then try to take the good and then learn from the bad and implement it into our shop. You know, in regards to the team, just like hiring based off relationships, really big. Yeah. That was something I learned from Fishbine. Yeah. Just seeing how their team grew. Like they did referral-based hiring. And it just created a culture that once you have the culture you want, then you just try to replicate that. And it's the law of attraction, like John Maxwell talks about. So you attract like who you are. Yeah. You know, and that's also a testament to like my wife and I think just this is what we want to do. And then we connect with people that come in that want to work there on a different level, and those are usually the best fit.
Every time I walk into Makers, like whoever's at the counter, it varies every time I walk in there. I don't feel like pressured or like because there's some places like, all right, hurry up, get your order. Like it's such a awesome vibe, and I think that's why every time I walk in there, it's like filled, and I'm like, let's go. I'm happy for y'all on that. And Haley kind of pushed the idea a little bit there. Like, when was that moment where you were like, okay, I want to take this a little step further than just a thought rattling in my head?
I think it was that whole thing of what do we see ourselves doing? We were, I was 20, like when we started the idea, I was probably 27, 28, almost 28. Yeah. That's when we had the idea of, all right, like if we're going to do something, we need to, like, I don't know, it was one of those things too. Also just being believers, you know, something we felt God was kind of leading us. I don't know. He put stuff on your heart, and then you can't not think about it. Yeah. One of those things.
It's like indelible on your heart.
So we started just pursuing this idea, and I'm really big, and I have to be careful. This can be a downside too, but I'm really big at chatting through an idea.
Same.
It can be really good. It's a good thing because I basically do like, I could do 50 different elevator pitches in one day. Yeah. Of like the same thing. Because I try to pitch it just as I think gauge interest, you know? Yeah. Because if it's a good idea, it will gain traction. It doesn't have to be polished, but if there's something to it, then it's going to happen. You know, this is a side note. I listened to this guy. It was the former CEO of Netflix. He talked about that when they were growing. Yeah. They used to spend thousands of dollars in like a month to roll out one idea. And then if it didn't work out, it was a bummer. Yeah. And it took then they're like, oh, we got to do another month. Then they're like a month behind. So then they were getting to the point like we need to do like 3 a month. And then it turned into 3 a week, and then 5 a week, 10 a week. And they were like, they found better results if they just tried an idea and it didn't have to be polished. They were trying to polish everything before sending it out. So then they started to just put out an idea, and then if it gained traction, that's what he was talking about. A good idea will gain attention, even if it's not perfect. Doesn't have to be.
It's like a snowball rolling down the hill. Like if it's well built, it's not going to fall apart going down the hill. And it's also not being afraid to fail. I think that's something I have been like bad at. It's like, oh, well, I've got to make it perfect and then everyone will come. And it's like, that's not how it works.
Yeah. And I mean, there is like some practicality to, like, if you have a family or, you know, and you have responsibilities, you have to be able to provide still.
Yeah.
And I think too, it depends on the timing. You know, John Maxwell, again, I like John Maxwell a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the leadership guru.
Oh yeah,
basically.
love him too.
But he has also the other law is one of them is the law of timing. Some things just fall into place.
Yeah.
And it's also, but it also goes back to, it's not being lucky, it's being prepared for luck, the whole thing, and being ready for the opportunity, those kind of things. So we were, I don't know, I think it could all work out regardless of the timing. We were just, our timing was when it started, obviously, and things fell into place in a certain way for us. And it was like coming out of COVID, all that kind of stuff. Because again, I said we started the idea in like 2018, got the branding done, all that, started meeting with the bank, had no idea what I was doing, put together like a budget proposal of this is what we could make in 3 months. And I had zero, I would need to go back and look at it. But I showed it to the bank and they were like, oh, this looks great. And I was in my head thinking like, really? Like there's no way kind of deal. But we didn't, the bank never helped us really. So like things just didn't pan out. Like we were trying to find a space, but then fast forward 2020, like luckily we didn't because we were going to go in a different spot too.
Yeah.
But I don't know, just kept doing video and photo work in the meantime. And then once the opportunity came up, that's when we kind of jumped on it.
It was like everything aligned. And I think that networking part is so important because you didn't just give up on the idea. You kept building relationships, and that opened up a huge door for where you're at right now, location-wise.
Yeah.
A lot of people would be like, Caleb's so lucky. Look at that place. And I was like, no, Caleb put a lot of work in to get that place.
Well, and I was doing video work for my landlord.
Yeah.
Just randomly out of COVID.
Yeah.
And it's funny because he lives here, but they were working with an agency out of Austin. And the Austin agency found me on Vimeo. Which he was the first person to ever find me on Vimeo. It's like pretty
perfect
wild.
timing, though.
Yeah.
Perfect timing.
And somehow I got the gig, started doing these videos for them during COVID. And they had this space and we walked through it. They were thinking about turning it into like a video photo studio potentially. And I walked through it, but I didn't even know I wasn't even thinking about it at the time. It never popped in my head, oh, this could be a coffee shop.
Yeah.
And it was just through relationship, basically. And then we started doing our coffee cart. They saw it. They asked us if we want to host a market there. Because markets were just popular in early 2021 out of COVID.
Yeah.
And so that's one of those things, like timing was really fortunate for the way we did it. Now there's different ways to do it. You know, I feel like people can build a personal brand and do stuff on Instagram and build a following that way. It's really effective.